Cities of dreams or nightmares? Despite the chaos, the traffic, the pollution, and the insane cost of living, millions of people keep moving in. Why? What makes these cities so irresistible that people are willing to endure it all? Today, we're exploring our top 5 cities where opportunity comes with a price. But the dream of making it big keeps people flocking to them. Some call them the worst cities to live in, but thousands still arrive each year, ready to take their shot. Starting off with the 5th on our list. Paris, the city of love and protests. If Paris had a national pastime beyond making cheese and staring at art, it would be protesting. They'll strike about literally anything: public transportation, pension reforms, climate change, or whether your baguette is too short. Then there is the cost of living in Paris. Now, if you've ever had fantasies of living in a cute little Parisian apartment, living the next Emily in Paris dream, sipping wine from a quaint balcony, you might want to adjust those expectations. The average rent in Paris? You're looking at around €1,200 a month for a tiny, cramped studio in the city centre. But guess what? People still flock to Paris. Because at the end of the day, who cares if your kitchen is also your living room and your bedroom? You're in Paris. The city might drive you up the wall, but when you stand on that Pont Neuf bridge at sunset, gazing over the Seine, or see the Louvre after dark, it all makes sense. Moving on to place number 4. The City of Angels, Los Angeles, is a city that's impossible to ignore. Whether it's because of the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, the eternal sunshine, or the endless opportunities in tech, entertainment, and business, people just can't seem to stay away. In fact, over the past year, roughly 40,000 people moved to LA, adding to its already 10 million strong metropolitan population. You've seen LA in the movies: palm trees swaying, surfers catching waves, movie stars cruising down Sunset Boulevard. But let's peel back the glossy Instagram filter and take a closer look at what it's really like to live in Los Angeles. Let's start with the traffic, because if you've ever lived in or visited LA, you'll know that the city's streets are less about getting somewhere and more about testing your patience as a human being. Los Angeles is home to one of the most congested traffic systems in the world. On average, LA drivers spend about 119 hours a year stuck in traffic, which is more time than most people spend binge-watching Netflix. From the 405 to the 10, the city's highways are like rivers of despair where everyone has a podcast playing and a coffee in hand, hoping they'll move just a few more feet before retirement. Now, if you somehow survive the traffic, you'll be hit with another reality: rent. Living in LA is expensive. The average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in the city hovers around $2,500 to $3,000 a month. And that's if you're lucky enough to find one. Want a house with a yard? Get ready to shell out millions for the privilege of seeing palm trees from your window. Unfortunately, LA's housing situation isn't just expensive, it's a full-blown crisis. There's a severe shortage of affordable housing, and as a result, homelessness has skyrocketed. The city has more than 70,000 homeless individuals, and Skid Row, a downtown area known for its dense homeless population, is a tragic symbol of the city's inequality. But hey, the weather! There's no denying that LA's climate is a major draw. With over 280 sunny days a year, you'll almost never have to worry about carrying an umbrella or bundling up for winter. You can go to the beach in January and watch a sunset from Malibu or take a hike in Runyon Canyon without shivering. That Southern California sunshine is no joke, and for many people, it's worth putting up with the other downsides. Next on the list, with position number 3 comes Istanbul. A tale of 2 continents, Istanbul is a city like no other. With a population of over 16 million people and growing fast, it's the largest city in Turkey and one of the largest in the world. It's also one of the most historically significant cities, having served as the capital of 3 massive empires: the Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman. But don't let the historical glamour fool you. Istanbul is also a modern-day behemoth where the old world collides with the new in a wild, chaotic, and incredibly vibrant way. Each year, around 60,000, 70,000 new residents move into Istanbul, adding to its already ballooning population. People are flocking to this city from all over Turkey and beyond, drawn by its economic opportunities, cultural richness, and that unique East meets West charm that only Istanbul can offer. Now, we can't talk about Istanbul without tackling its infamous traffic problem. Driving in Istanbul is a test of patience and courage that can only be described as an epic urban battle. If you thought LA traffic was bad, try sitting in your car for 2-3 hours just to cross a bridge. Then there is the housing, and it's made even worse by the city's rapid growth. Of course, we can't ignore one of Istanbul's biggest concerns: earthquakes. Istanbul's housing market is in high demand, and that means rents are skyrocketing. While it's still more affordable than cities like Paris or Los Angeles, housing in Istanbul can be a mixed bag. Many experts predict that Istanbul is overdue for a major quake. With so much unregulated construction and older buildings that may not meet modern earthquake safety standards, it's a ticking time bomb that residents live with every day. At the end of the day, Istanbul is a city that thrives on contrasts. It's ancient and modern, chaotic and serene, frustrating and deeply inspiring. It's a place where people endure hours of traffic and navigate complex housing markets, but also one where you can watch the sun set over 2 continents, surrounded by history and vibrant culture. Next, number 2. Beijing, a city of 22 million and counting. Beijing is huge. There's really no other way to put it. The city's population is now over 22 million, and it's still growing fast. In fact, despite government efforts to curb overcrowding, Beijing attracts more than 80,000 new residents annually. Let's take a look at the paradox of this smog-covered, overcrowded and high-pressure metropolis that somehow keeps luring people in. One of the biggest complaints about life in Beijing, the air quality. Beijing takes the smog game to a whole new level. You know it's bad when your weather app doesn't just tell you the temperature, but also warns you to limit outdoor activities due to hazardous air quality. There have been days when the pollution index has even hit 500. That's not just unhealthy, that's apocalyptic. If you thought Istanbul or LA had traffic problems, Beijing's 12 million plus vehicles are here to challenge you. The average commuter spends 2 to 3 hours in traffic every day, which can add up to more than 200 hours a year, just sitting behind the wheel. Now, let's talk about housing. Housing prices in Beijing have skyrocketed over the last decade, fueled by the city's rapid economic growth and its status as a global powerhouse. Many young professionals have no choice but to live in micro-apartments, tiny spaces often smaller than 200 square feet, or opt for shared accommodations with roommates. So why do people keep coming to Beijing, despite the pollution, the traffic, and the housing crisis? The answer is simple: opportunity. Beijing is the beating heart of China's economy, politics, and culture. If you want to work for a top multinational corporation, start a tech company, or be involved in shaping China's future, this is the place to be. At the end of the day, Beijing is a city of contrasts. It's both ancient and futuristic, inspiring and exhausting. It's where the pressures of modern life meet the beauty of ancient history, and where dreams are pursued even if they sometimes get lost in the smog. For all its challenges, Beijing remains a city of endless opportunities. And that's why it continues to attract tens of thousands of new residents each year. And here we are at the worst place to move to: New York City, the Big Apple with big dreams and even bigger bills. New York City is a global icon, the ultimate destination for dreamers, doers, and risk-takers. The city's population currently stands at around 8.8 million people within the city proper, but if you include the larger metropolitan area, that number swells to over 20 million. Every year, approximately 100,000 new residents move to the Big Apple, hoping to make it big, or just survive the subway during rush hour. There's something magnetic about New York City. It's the city of Broadway, Wall Street, and Fifth Avenue, where every corner feels like a scene out of a movie. Let's start with the elephant in the room: the cost of living. New York is notoriously one of the most expensive cities in the world. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan stands at around $4,000 a month. Yep, you heard that right. For that price, you might not get much more than a glorified closet. But hey, at least you can tell people you live in Manhattan, right? And it's not just rent. Everything from groceries to transportation is more expensive in New York. A quick trip to the bodega for a coffee and a bagel can easily set you back $10. Want to grab drinks with friends after work? Prepare for $15 cocktails. The pressure to succeed in New York is intense. It's a place where people work long hours, sometimes just to make ends meet. Burnout is real, and many people find themselves stuck in the rat race, barely able to enjoy the very city they moved here to experience. And then there is the transportation aspect. The NYC subway is an absolute lifeline, moving more than 5 million people every day. But it's also one of the most frustrating systems in the world. Between the constant delays, the surprise train traffic ahead of us, and the occasional "we're being held momentarily by the train dispatcher," riding the subway can feel like being trapped in a never-ending maze of confusion. And let's not forget the delightful smell of, well, subway. For those who drive, New York traffic is its own beast. Whether you're trying to navigate the streets of Midtown or braving the Brooklyn Bridge at rush hour, traffic jams are just a way of life here. It's a city of extremes. You've got billionaires living in penthouses overlooking Central Park. While just blocks away, the city's homeless population continues to grow. Right now, New York has one of the largest homeless populations in the country, with over 70,000 people living in shelters or on the streets. And yet, despite the housing crisis, there's still a steady influx of new residents. People are willing to pay astronomical rent, share tiny apartments with multiple roommates, and endure long commutes just for the chance to live in New York. Why do more than 100,000 people move here every year, despite the fact that it's one of the hardest cities to live in? The answer is simple: because New York is alive. It's a city where everything feels possible. Sure, it's expensive, crowded, and chaotic, but it's also full of opportunity, diversity, and excitement. So there you have it. 5 cities that drive you mad, break your wallet, and test your patience. Yet, people can't stop moving in. It's the ultimate paradox, where the struggles are real, but so are the opportunities. Let us know in the comments, what do you think? Which city would you brave, and why? Or maybe you're already living in one of these places. Tell us your story.